I left my home after 40 years, and I regret it every day. Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, maybe with a cup of tea or coffee in hand, and just looked around your home, the photos on the wall, the worn but cozy cushions on the couch, the little scuffs on the floor where the grandkids used to race their toy cars, and thought, this place holds my whole life? It's a quiet feeling, isn't it? A mix of gratitude and something a little heavier. Because for many people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, there comes a moment where someone suggests, maybe gently, maybe not, that it's time to downsize. A smaller place will be easier to manage, they say. You don't need all this space anymore. And while they might mean well, what they don't always understand is that a house isn't just square footage. It's a living scrapbook. It's where you raised your children, where birthdays were celebrated, where you stayed up late watching old movies with someone you loved. In today's video, we're going to talk about something that doesn't always get said out loud, the emotional side of downsizing. Because even though moving into a smaller home or retirement community can make sense on paper, a surprising number of seniors end up feeling regret afterward. Not because of the new space itself, but because of the emotional weight of what was left behind. We'll explore 5 powerful emotional realities that come with leaving a long-time home, and if you're thinking about downsizing or have already made that move, this might help you feel a little more understood. Let's take our time with this. This is a deeply personal topic, and it deserves care. Let's begin with something that almost no one talks about until they've experienced it, the feeling of identity loss. For decades, your home wasn't just where you lived, it was part of who you were. The garden you tended every spring wasn't just a hobby, it was something that grounded you. That front porch wasn't just wood and nails, it was where neighbors waved hello and life slowed down for a minute. Even the clutter in the garage told a story about your life, your interests, your history. When people downsize, especially quickly or under pressure, they often describe a strange emptiness, not just because the new space is smaller, but because they feel like they left a piece of themselves behind. The things they had to give up weren't just objects, they were parts of their identity. One woman I spoke with, let's call her Margaret, moved into a one-bedroom condo in her early 70s. She liked the idea of low maintenance and fewer stairs. But within a few weeks, she told me she felt like she didn't recognize herself anymore. Her routines had changed. The neighbors were polite but distant. She couldn't garden. She missed the sound of the birds in her backyard and the creak of the hallway floor in the morning. It wasn't regret about the move itself, it was regret about what she didn't realize she'd miss. And that brings us to the second emotional reality, unexpected grief. You might not think of moving as something you grieve, but for many seniors, that's exactly what happens. There's a mourning period, not just for the house, but for the life it represented. The sound of your children's laughter echoing down the hall. The way your spouse used to hum while cooking in the kitchen. The silly little traditions you never thought twice about, like always putting up the same decorations in the same spot each year. These are the invisible threads that make a house a home. And when those are suddenly gone, even if you've moved somewhere nicer, it can feel like part of your history has vanished. Grief doesn't always show up the way we expect. It can look like restlessness. Like sitting in a brand new living room and wondering why you feel uneasy. Like opening boxes that haven't been unpacked in months because deep down, you're not quite ready to let go of what was. And that's okay. It's human. There's often pressure to feel excited about a new chapter. To embrace the freedom of a simpler space. But emotions don't always follow logic. Just because the move made sense financially or physically doesn't mean it was easy emotionally. You might even feel a little embarrassed to admit how much you miss your old place. Maybe you've thought, I should be grateful, I have everything I need now, but your heart hasn't quite caught up with your head. That's more common than you think. And here's something else, when you leave a home after decades, you're not just packing up furniture, you're untangling years of memories. That process can stir up all kinds of emotions, some of them completely unexpected. Maybe you come across an old school project from your kids and suddenly remember how small their hands used to be. Or a dusty recipe card written in your mother's handwriting, and just like that, you're standing in her kitchen again. These aren't just things, they're anchors to the people you've been, the life you've lived. Letting go of them, even when you know it's time, can feel like letting go of your past. That's why many people describe feeling a kind of emotional disorientation after downsizing. Not quite depression, not quite sadness, just a kind of floating, like you're not fully rooted yet. And the truth is, that's part of the journey. Downsizing isn't just a move, it's a major life transition. And like any transition, it comes with mixed feelings. You might feel a sense of relief on one hand, less to clean, fewer repairs to deal with, but also a quiet ache that's hard to explain. A longing for the familiar, for the comfort of walls that knew your laughter, your tears, your quiet Sunday mornings. And here's something I want you to remember: if you've felt any of this, or if you're worried you might, you are not alone. Now that we've opened up about some of the emotional realities people face when they leave a long-time home, let's continue this conversation together. Because while it's important to honor what's been lost, it's just as important to understand what we can still carry with us, and how to move forward without leaving ourselves behind. Sometimes, even when you know a move was the right choice, there's still this lingering question in the back of your mind: did I give up too much? Not just square footage or storage, but a sense of place, of purpose, even a sense of belonging. That brings us to another emotional reality that often takes people by surprise: the loss of community. When you've lived in a neighborhood for decades, your life becomes woven into it in ways you don't always notice, until it's gone. The familiar faces, the rhythms of the street, even the way the sunlight hits your front porch at a certain time of day. These are small things, yes, but they create a sense of comfort that's hard to replicate. You might miss waving to your neighbor as they water their plants. You might miss the mail carrier who knew your name, or the clerk at the corner store who always asked about your grandkids. You might even miss the sound of kids riding their bikes down the street, or the hum of a lawnmower on Saturday mornings. In a new place, even if it's clean and well-maintained and technically better, it can all feel a little sterile. People might keep more to themselves. The walls may be quieter, but sometimes that quiet can feel more like loneliness than peace. One gentleman I met, James, moved into a modern retirement apartment after his wife passed. It was beautiful: large windows, great views, friendly staff. But after a few months, he said he felt invisible. Back at the old place, he told me, I couldn't walk to the mailbox without someone stopping me for a chat. Here, I go days without speaking to anyone unless I make a real effort. And that's the key word: effort. In your old neighborhood, relationships happen naturally. Over years. Decades. They weren't forced. They grew. But in a new place, you have to start over. And let's be honest, it's not always easy to put yourself out there again, especially if you're naturally a bit private or introverted. This kind of social disconnect can quietly wear you down. It doesn't always feel like loneliness in the traditional sense, but more like a dull ache. A sense that something's missing, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. And that's okay. It's not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you've lived a life full of connection, and your heart is simply adjusting. Another emotional challenge that often comes with downsizing is something many people hesitate to say out loud: a feeling of being left behind. You see, for much of your life, your home is where things happen. It's where family gathers, where friends drop by, where holidays are hosted. And when you downsize, especially if you move into a space that's too small for guests, or far away from where you used to live, it can start to feel like life is happening without you. Your adult children might now be the ones hosting the holidays. The grandkids don't visit as often because there's no room. And even if you're happy for your children and proud of their independence, it's still hard not to feel a little sidelined. You might look around and think, this used to be the house where everyone came together. And now, maybe it's just you, in a quiet apartment, waiting for the phone to ring. It doesn't mean you're not loved. It doesn't mean you're forgotten. But it's natural to miss the feeling of being at the center of things. Of being the anchor, the host, the hub of your family's life. Some people try to adjust by downsizing within their community, moving to a smaller home nearby, keeping ties to their routines and relationships. And for others, the move is more drastic, maybe to another city, or even another state, because of finances, health, or to be closer to family. Either way, it's a shift. And like any big shift, it can leave you feeling a little untethered. This sense of displacement, of no longer having a central role, can affect your confidence in subtle ways. You might stop hosting gatherings. You might feel less involved in decisions. You might even hesitate to voice your opinion, thinking, it's not my place anymore. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Your presence still matters. Your wisdom still matters. Just because your surroundings have changed doesn't mean you have to fade into the background. Still, it's perfectly normal to grieve the loss of that central role. To wish you still had the space where everyone could gather. To miss the chaos of family get-togethers, even if they left you exhausted. These moments, as messy and loud and imperfect as they were also full of love, and it's okay to long for that. And here's the thing, there's no one-size-fits-all way to process these changes. Some people adapt quickly, finding new joy in their freedom. Others need more time. More space to feel everything that comes with closing one chapter and beginning another. So, if you found yourself feeling more emotional than expected after a move, or even questioning whether downsizing was the right decision, please know this, you're not being unreasonable. You're being human. This isn't just about floor plans or furniture. It's about the deep, emotional layers that come with a home. The laughter, the losses, the rituals, the growth. When you let go of a long-time home, you're not just moving out of a building. You're moving out of a life stage. And that takes courage. Give yourself permission to feel it all. The sadness. The pride. The hope. Even the confusion. You've earned the right to have complicated feelings about a life well lived. There's a moment, often quiet and alone, when you sit in your new home, surrounded by boxes or freshly painted walls, and it hits you, this is it now. The place you lived for decades, the place where you built your life, is no longer yours. Someone else might be cooking in that kitchen now. Someone else's laughter might echo through those halls. And while part of you understands this is all part of life moving forward, another part aches with a kind of finality that's hard to explain. This brings us to another deep emotional truth about downsizing, the fear of forgetting. When we leave behind a long-time home, we often worry, not just about the physical things we've let go of, but about the memories. The little moments that only seem to live within those four walls. You might worry you'll forget the sound your old floorboards made when you walked across them at night. Or how the sun would hit the kitchen window just right in the early morning, glowing across the table as you poured your first cup of coffee. Maybe you worry that without that familiar hallway, you won't remember the way your child used to drag a blanket behind them as they toddled past. Or that without the same backyard, the memory of barbecues and fireflies will start to fade. These memories feel tied to the space. And when the space is gone, we fear the memories might follow. But here's what's important to hold on to, the memories live in you, not just the walls. It's true, our environment helps trigger those memories. A certain smell, a creaky door, even an old piece of furniture can bring everything rushing back. But the core of those experiences, the emotion, the warmth, the love, that's not bound to any one place. That's yours to carry, always. Still, that doesn't mean it's easy. Sometimes we hold on to things not because we need them, but because we're afraid that letting go means forgetting. That's why so many people who downsize keep boxes of old cards, toys, or even worn-out clothing they'll never wear again. Not because of the items themselves, but because of the memories attached. And if that's you, it's okay. There's no rule that says you have to let go of everything to move forward. Some things are worth keeping, not for their usefulness, but for their meaning. But don't underestimate your ability to carry those moments with you. Try this, sit down and write a memory from each room of your old house. One from the kitchen. One from the living room. One from your bedroom. Be as detailed as you can. What did it smell like? What could you hear? Who was with you? What were you feeling? You'd be amazed how clearly those moments return when you take the time to invite them back. And the best part? Once they're written down or spoken out loud, they become easier to hold on to. There's one more emotional reality that many people face after downsizing, and it might just be the hardest one to talk about. It's the quiet fear that moving meant giving up control. For some, the decision to downsize is entirely theirs, a choice made with careful planning and hope for a simpler life. But for others, it's not so clear-cut. Maybe it came after a health scare, or a partner's passing, or maybe the kids pushed for it, worried about safety or upkeep. And when that happens, even if it's done with love and good intentions, it can leave you feeling powerless. Like life is being decided for you, instead of by you. One man I spoke to, Arthur, told me that after he moved into a senior living apartment at his daughter's suggestion, he felt like he had stepped off the stage. Like his role in the story had shifted from being a main character to someone just watching the scenes unfold. He didn't resent his daughter. He knew she meant well. But he missed the feeling of making his own decisions, on his own time. Of choosing what to keep, when to move, how to live. That feeling is more common than many people admit. Because when you give up a home, it can feel like you're also giving up independence, even if the truth is more complicated than that. But here's the thing, control can be reclaimed. Independence isn't just about owning a big house or mowing your own lawn. It's about agency. About having a voice in how you spend your days, who you spend them with, and what makes you feel alive. If you've recently downsized, or you're thinking about it, ask yourself, what do I still want to create? What kind of life do I want to build from here? Maybe now is the time to take that art class you always talked about. Maybe you start a weekly dinner with neighbors or a walking group at the park. Maybe you finally organize those family photos and create an album to pass down. The point is, you still matter. You still have purpose. And while the walls around you may be different, your heart, your mind, your voice, they are still yours. You haven't lost control. You've just turned a page. And even though that turning might have come with some tears, the next chapter is yours to write. Now, as we reflect on everything we've talked about, the identity you leave behind, the grief, the loneliness, the fear of forgetting, and the sense of losing control, it's important to pause and recognize just how strong you are. These emotions aren't signs of weakness. They are signs of a life deeply lived. A life rooted in meaning, in connection, in love. And while letting go of a home can feel like letting go of a part of yourself, I want you to know this, you are not defined by your address. You are defined by your memories, your kindness, your wisdom, and your resilience. Downsizing doesn't mean shrinking your life. It just means reshaping it. And that reshaping can be uncomfortable, but it can also open new doors. Doors to peace. To simplicity. To unexpected joys. Sometimes the hardest part of downsizing isn't the move itself, it's what comes after. That quiet space. That empty calendar. That pause between what was and whatever comes next. And in that pause, it's easy to feel like you've lost your place in the world. But what if, just what if, that space wasn't empty? What if it was open? Yes, downsizing brings loss. It brings emotion. And it brings a shift in how you see yourself. But it also offers a rare opportunity. A chance to reflect. To reimagine. And even to rediscover. Because when you let go of some of the old routines, something surprising can happen, new ones begin to form. Ones you never had time for before. Ones that weren't possible when your to-do list was longer and your home was busier. You might find that you finally have the mental space to read those books collecting dust on your shelf. Or to call that old friend you haven't spoken to in years. Or even to just sit on a quiet balcony in the morning with a cup of coffee, watching the day begin, without having to rush anywhere. Some people discover new talents after downsizing. They join writing groups, pick up painting, or start volunteering. Others begin walking every morning, or tending a few potted plants with the same care they once gave to a full garden. And slowly, a new rhythm forms. One that fits where you are now. This new life doesn't erase the old one. It's not a replacement. It's a continuation. A different season, not less meaningful, just different. It's okay to carry the past with you. In fact, it's beautiful when you do. But don't let the past close you off from the present. You're still here. You still have stories to tell, laughter to share, quiet moments to enjoy. And believe it or not, you still have memories waiting to be made. One woman I spoke with, her name was Clara, told me that for nearly a year after she moved, she barely hung anything on her walls. It didn't feel like mine, she said. I was afraid to settle in. But then one afternoon, her granddaughter came to visit. They made tea, sat on the couch, and started talking. And when the little girl laughed, right there in that unfamiliar living room, Clara felt something shift. It wasn't the house that made it feel like home, she said. It was the love inside it. That's the heart of it, really. Home isn't just about the bricks or the beams. It's about the moments. The meals shared. The memories made. And you have the power to create that, wherever you are. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, or sad, or even a little lost after leaving your longtime home, let me gently remind you, it's okay to feel that way. It's natural. And you don't have to rush your way through it. Healing doesn't happen on a schedule. Grief doesn't follow a timeline. It comes in waves. Sometimes small. Sometimes strong. But every wave eventually passes. And with each one, you learn a little more about what matters most. So maybe today, you look around your new space and ask yourself, not what did I lose, but what can I grow here? Can I make space for laughter? For calm? For creativity? Can I still host dinner for 2, even if it's not 20? Can I still sit with a friend and talk for hours, even if it's not in the same dining room as before? You don't need a big house to live a big life. And just because something is simpler now doesn't mean it's smaller. Simplicity can be beautiful. It can be freeing. It can be exactly what you need to live this next chapter with intention, peace, and joy. So if you're sitting there wondering whether you made the right decision, take a breath. Look around. Touch the armrest of your chair. Feel your feet on the floor. You're here. You're safe. And you're still writing your story. Maybe you keep a photo album nearby with pictures of your old home. Or hang one special piece of artwork that always brought you comfort. Maybe you invite someone over, light a candle, and make a new memory in your new space. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need to find what makes you feel rooted again. Remember, your worth was never in the size of your home or how many people could fit around your table. Your worth has always been in your heart, your kindness, your memories, your love. You've lived through decades of change. You've faced challenges, raised families, worked hard, and loved deeply. If anyone knows how to adapt with grace, it's you. So give yourself some credit. Be gentle with yourself. And let this next part of life unfold, not with pressure or regret, but with curiosity and compassion. And as we wrap up, I just want to say this, if any part of this message resonated with you, you are not alone. So many others are walking this path, quietly feeling the same emotions, wondering if anyone else understands. If that's you, leave a comment below. Share a memory, or just say hello. You never know who might need to hear your story. If this video brought you comfort or helped you reflect, I'd love it if you gave it a like. And if you want more videos like this, gentle, honest, and focused on living well at every stage of life, hit that subscribe button so we can stay connected. Here's to honoring your past while embracing your future. Here's to creating peace, meaning, and even joy in the spaces you now call home. You've got this. And you're not alone. Here's to living your best life at any age.